It's time to refresh your yard during spring backyard days at the Home Depot. Get low prices guaranteed on propane grills starting at $179, like the Next Grill 3-burner gas grill. Or get $50 off the select Weber Spirit Grill and bring big flavor to your backyard. Then set the scene with Hampton-based string lights that bring it all together. Shop spring backyard days for 7 days at the Home Depot, now through May 6th. Exclusions apply. See homedepot.com/price match for details.
Ready to soundtrack your summer? With Red Bull Summer All Day Play, you choose a playlist that fits your summer vibe the best. Are you a festival fanatic, a deep end DJ, a road dog, or a trail mixer? Just add a song to your chosen playlist and put your summer on track. Red Bull Summer All Day Play. Red Bull gives you wings. Visit redbull.com/brightsummer ahead to learn more. See you this summer.
Chronic migraine, 15 or more headache days a month, each lasting 4 hours or more, can make me feel like a spectator in my own life.
Botox, onabotulinum toxin A, prevents headaches in adults with chronic migraine. It's not for those with 14 or fewer headache days a month. It's the #1 prescribed branded chronic migraine preventive treatment.
Prescription Botox is injected by your doctor. Effects of Botox may spread hours to weeks after injection, causing serious symptoms. Alert your doctor right away, as difficulty swallowing, speaking, breathing, eye problems, or muscle weakness can be signs of a life-threatening condition. Patients with these conditions before injection are at highest risk. Side effects may include allergic reactions, neck and injection site pain, fatigue, and headache. Allergic reactions can include rash, welts, asthma symptoms, and dizziness. Don't receive Botox if there's a skin infection. Tell your doctor your medical history, muscle or nerve conditions, including ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease, myasthenia gravis, or Lambert-Eaton syndrome, and medications, including botulinum toxins, as these may increase the risk of serious side effects.
Why wait? Ask your doctor, visit BotoxChronicMigraine.com, or call 1-800-44-BOTOX to learn more.
I'm Drew Elliott from Seven Stones. You're listening to the Hook Rocks podcast with Jay Scott.
Activities. I'm being pulled by my felonious proclivities. Look in the mirror with such crystal clear lucidity. Become more aware of my life's vacant obscenity. Whoa, that ain't no way to go. Face down there on the floor.
Hey everybody, what's going on? What's happening? How you doing? Hope everything's all right with you. It is Saturday night. I'm feeling all right. It's Jay Scott, and I am your host on The Hook Rocks, the ultimate rock community podcast, part of the Pantheon Podcast Network, a great network of music-related podcasts. You can check out all the great podcasts on pantheonpodcast.com. Follow them on Twitter at Pantheon Pods, and follow us on Twitter at The Hook Rocks. Follow us wherever you do podcast, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, wherever. Don't forget to set your app to automatic download so you get all the brand new Hook Rocks episodes. It's Daylight Savings Day. We get an extra hour of sleep tomorrow. I am excited for that. You know you're old when you get excited for an extra hour of sleep at no cost. So everybody sleep in, enjoy the extra hour. It is well-deserved for all of us. Had the pleasure of seeing Blacktop Mojo. Got Catt coming up here soon to do a great interview. Catt's the bass player for Blacktop Mojo. Saw them this past Wednesday at the Rock House in Dundee, Illinois. Just an absolute fantastic show. Fantastic venue. Everybody knows, or people locally here know the venues like the Metro, the Vic, Aragon, the Riviera. Those are all great venues in the city. I'm sure I'm forgetting a couple, House of Blues and some others as well. And there's some really good ones in the suburbs. And, I've been to the Forge quite a bit out in Joliet. There's the Brower House in Lombard. There's Dirty Nelly's in Palatine that has a show from time to time. But I love, and my favorite place is the Rock House in Dundee. It's just a very cool venue. It used to be one of those old theaters that every kind of downtown area has. A lot of them were dollar theaters back in the day when we were growing up. Well, they took out, the screen and the seats, and they made this into a concert venue. At least I think that's how the story goes. I could be wrong, but it is kick-ass. It is just a great ambiance, great feel. I saw Mammoth there earlier this year. I've seen Ryan Roxy, the guitar player from Alice Cooper, and I saw LA Guns there. It's such a cool venue. I wish more bands coming through would play there. I wish they would have, more of the younger bands. I know Dirty Honey has played there quite a bit. Rad Key, I think, has played there too as well. So, yeah, if you're a new band and you're listening to this, it's about 15 minutes off of I-90. Which is one of the main highways that runs through Chicago. And if you compare that to the Forge, where it's like a 25-minute drive off the highway, there is no comparison, right? People can come out from the city, and they're 10, 15 minutes off the highway. You've got bars, you've got restaurants, you've got a really cool scene in the downtown area. That pulls people to that location. When you're dealing with a place that doesn't really have a lot of that, if you do a weekday show, there's traffic in the city of Chicago, and if you're going to eat out, you want to eat close to the place where the show's at, and Dundee provides that. There's so many cool restaurants. Myself and the Youth Rocks ate right next door, like a block over, at this place called Emmett's. We met High Stick Mick. You can follow him at High Stick Mick on Twitter. Him and his friend were eating at the same place, and they got great beer soup. There's all types of bars around there and restaurants. It pulls people to that. So if you do have a show during the week and you're coming from the city, you're like, hey, we can leave now. We can grab a bite to eat, go right to the show, rather than, man, I'm going out to a venue that's a certain distance off of the highway and there's nothing around there for us to eat. So I think I'll pass, is what a lot of people say. So keep that in mind. If you're looking to book a gig outside of Chicago, the Rock House, in my opinion, and the Brower House too, is really right off the highway. It's right off of North Avenue in a town called Lombard. But getting to the show, Blacktop Mojo absolutely delivered. This is the second time I've seen them. I saw them at the Forge back in October of 2019 with a band called Lullwater and another band called Otherwise. And I will say this show was awesome. Not to say that the one at the Forge wasn't, but the crowd had so much energy at this show, and there was a good synergy between the band and the crowd, similar to what happened at the Vic Theater last week when I saw Rival Sons. Very great, they had great energy too with the crowd, and that matters. That matters to the band too. When they get a crowd, and that crowd is a good-sized crowd for a Wednesday for a new band, and they're into it, and they're singing along, and that means so much to the performance. That means so much to how the band feels and the synergy you have with the crowd. And the crowd delivered, and the band absolutely delivered. Man, they sounded awesome. They sounded great. That room sounds fantastic. They did a lot of songs off of their self-titled fourth album that just came out here in August. And the album is absolutely phenomenal. It's one of the best in 2021. You have to pick it up if you haven't so yet. You visit their website, blacktopmojo.com, and go to their merch section and buy the album there. I think they may have vinyl. I'm not sure. But if they don't have vinyl, they definitely have the CD. And they've got the rest of their CDs too as well. I'm a big fan of buying stuff at the show because I want to make sure that the money goes right to the band. So I held off on buying the CD until Wednesday's show. And just awesome. I mean, some of the highlights, was Laid On, Bed Tundi, which has grown into my favorite song off of the new album. Just a killer groove, a killer vibe. I absolutely just love that song. Won't Last, All Mine, Come and Get Your Coat are also some big highlights too as well. Just an absolute great performance. These guys have been around for close to 10 years, and they've had some recent changes in the band, but they are tight, man. You could tell that there's, a big camaraderie with the band and with the guys in the group. They enjoy playing with each other, which is something that is really important. It makes the show so much better, makes the band sound so tight. Had a chance to talk with Matt James, the singer, briefly after the show, told him what a great performance it was. He sounded absolutely phenomenal, as did the band. They've got a good thing going. And as you'll hear in the interview with Catt, they have some really good things coming up in 2022. They're excited about some things, and hopefully those things do come to fruition. I know until it's announced, it's not really official, and there's always a chance, things can change. But, yeah, I hope that continues for them, and I hope that they get on to a good tour and get some really good exposure, because they deserve it. They release good music, great music. They're, this last album here, from the first song to the last, each song gets better. Like the song after the second track, the third one, is better than the fourth one. It's better than the fifth. It just keeps going. And you're sitting there listening to it, and you're like, I was talking to Chris Corradetti, who does the end of the quarter, end of the year album reviews. And I go, this album is so damn good. Like, it's really good. Like, you're listening to it, and it's just so like, this is a really good fucking album. Like, wow. And of course, we live in a time where great music is not always accepted by the masses, and hopefully that changes. But this is a band that continues to evolve and continues to make great music. And my only hope for them is that they get appreciated like they should, because they deserve it. They're a great band, great group of guys, and they make absolutely fantastic music. They did a really cool encore. They did an acoustic version of My Girl. Yes, the old Motown song, My Girl, and it was awesome. And they ended the show with Tush by ZZ Top, and it just banged, man. It was awesome. Just great guitar work, great version. They just nailed it. A perfect way for that band to end the night, because, man, it's whenever you're doing a cover of a legendary song by a legendary band, the first thing I do is, because I'm so familiar with that song that ZZ Top does, I kind of listen and see if they're doing right by it, and they do a great job. They absolutely kill it. A great way to end the evening. The crowd, like I said, was into it from song one to the last song. They did 16 songs. That's awesome. They've got 4 albums. You should own all of them. If you don't, again, go order them or go see them on tour. They have this philosophy, which is really cool, that they're building their audience one show at a time. They're doing it old school. They're playing at places that, who knows how many people are going to show up. And Catt has said that the crowds have been really good. And based on what I saw at the Rock House, I'm happy that they are. When I walked into that room on Wednesday and I saw the crowd, I'm like, wow, this is good. I'm happy for them. I told High Stick Mick, I'm like, I'm really happy they got a great crowd. because, I've been to some shows, during the week that haven't been so good. And it's disappointing because I know these bands are disappointed, and I know the music is so good. And it's disappointing when you don't see a good turnout. But they had a really nice turnout, and the crowd was so into it. And I was surprised too, because these guys get like no radio airplay. At least in Chicago, I've never heard them. And people are singing along. This one guy in front of me had so much energy. It was just absolutely incredible. He was into it and he was probably older than me. I'm 46, and it was like a cardio workout for this dude. He was so into it. The crowd was just having a great time. And for a band like Blacktop Mojo to have that crowd on a Wednesday night put a smile on my face, because I know how hard that band works, and I know how great their music is. And it's nice to see a good crowd appreciate what they're doing. So I was happy, and continued success for these guys on the rest of the tour. I think they're touring through the end of November. So if you haven't seen them yet, go to their website and check them out. I guarantee you will love the show. You'll love the music. They're a very powerful band. Matt sounds so good. The band sounds absolutely phenomenal. It's just, man, you got to go. My recommendation is you got to go. You got to go check them out. Check out the interview here coming up with Catt. Let's get to it. Hope you enjoy it. Like I mentioned, we've got a great episode for you today. It is the third time a member of this band has appeared on The Hook Rocks, and I'm really excited because their fourth album, their self-titled album, Blacktop Mojo, is absolutely incredible. I'd like to welcome in bass player Catt from Blacktop Mojo. What's going on, man? How are you?
I'm doing great, brother, man. How you doing today?
I'm doing good, man. How's the tour going?
Man, it's been pretty smooth. We haven't had near as many bus issues as we did the last run, so we're thankful for that. And man, all the shows have been great. We've had pretty great turnouts, and just people ready to be back out there and rocking. And man, the shows have been going smooth. Like, everybody's just been, kicking ass and taking names, man.
That's awesome. Well, I
was just saying, it's been great.
We're going to get into all that. We're going to talk about the album, the music, and what's been going on with you guys. But before we do that, we always ask the same first question every time we have a first-time guest, and that is what the show is all about. Just like every great rock song that has a hook that sucks you in, every rock fan has a moment, whether it's a song, an album, a band, or performance that hooked you on rock and roll. What was it?
Let me think about this. Because, from the time I was young, the first time I really heard anything that would be considered, I guess, rock and roll music, whether it was, stuff my older brother was playing, like, back in the day, he was listening, what everybody listened to. He listened to Creed, he listened to Incubus, he listened to Nickelback, and, whatever was going on at the time. And so I would hear that, and I would always, really dig it. Like, I always was fascinated and just loved the sound of heavy guitars, just thundering drums, like killer bass lines and powerful vocals, man. Just ever since I think, when I was really young, I recollect the memory of my dad watching, I don't know, it's probably like VH1 Behind the Music or something like that. But I remember seeing like the music videos of the live performances of bands like Kiss and like the 80s hair bands and stuff, and just seeing these guys just going all out and just being ridiculous, and then power slides and like epic guitar solos, just like really into what they're doing. And I have a memory of in third grade, like I would always power slide and do like an air guitar solo, to get to my backpack, which was in the back of the room. So it was just, and I remember picking that up from watching stuff like that. And I guess it's just kind of always been there, and my dad, being a musician himself, like that's always been an impression on me. And he's a guitar player and phenomenal singer-songwriter himself. So with it being family rooted as well as just being around it and picking up on it as a young kid, man, I guess it's just kind of been a part of me from the early stages of life.
When did you want to pick up a bass? When did it become, when did that instrument, hook you on wanting to play that?
Gotcha. Well, I actually I didn't really have an interest in bass at first. It was kind of more of a thing that grew on me as I grew as a musician, also what my band needed at the time. I originally joined Blacktop Mojo in 2015 playing guitar. And that was my first love, really. Like, when I was younger, I tried to play drums, and I just didn't have the patience for it as a kid, like just sit down and be in one space for too long, you know what I mean? And so what happened is when I was 15, I had a skateboarding accident and broke my leg, and that sat me down long enough to, really put into the interest I had grown in guitar. Like, just, it really sat me down long enough to really focus on it and really fall in love with it as I began to learn it and began to appreciate it, and the art of it and the craft of it. And then whenever, to answer your question about the bass, and, Nathan and I, after Chris Davis, our original bass player, left, like we had, people filling in for us, and our producer also played bass for us on a few live gigs. And Nathan and I were always talking about how we almost needed like someone that could shred on guitar, but that could play along with the guitar riffs, but also like be a bass player. And we had this conversation on the phone many times, and it would be like, I'd be looking in the mirror and be like, yeah, I don't know where we're going to find a guy like that. And so in 2016, I moved over to bass, and the first thing I did on bass was our Dream On cover, which most people know when they know us. And that was the first bass thing I laid down for this band, and that's really how I came about it. Like, our band needed a good bass player, so I just stepped into that role, and like I fell in love with it in a way that I never actually perceived myself doing so. Like, I never imagined I would be the bass player, but I love it. Like, it's become more of a love for me than even, being a guitar player ever was, because I think I don't know, man. It's just happy accidents is what I like to call it. Like Bob Ross says, just things happen and they end up being better than what you even envisioned it being sometimes. Hope that rambling answered your question. I kind of like went off on a little rabbit trail there in my thoughts, but
absolutely. It's interesting that you mentioned breaking your leg and finding the time to learn guitar. I was just watching the documentary on Stephen Pearcy, the lead singer of Rat, and
right,
he was talking about when he was a kid, he got hit by a car and broke both of his legs, and that propelled him to learn guitar. Because he was laid up too as well. So it's interesting that, out of, a tragedy or out of something bad, something like that happens, something good happens like that,
right. And it's like at 15 years old, I was just more interested in hanging out with my friends and doing stupid stuff. Whereas, if I hadn't broke my leg, like I probably would have not had the focus I had on it, Same for him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wild how that happened.
Yeah. As far as influences go, once you picked it up, who were you listening to kind of shape your playing and shape your style?
Well, I think naturally, like most, you know, I think most bass players when they first pick up the instrument, like everybody knows who Flea is, so you naturally go check that out. But then it's like you start discovering other stuff. Like my roommate, this is actually, I would say, a huge influence on me as far as my bass playing goes, because my roommate was quite a great bass player himself. His name was Noah Bach, and he happened to, be a professional bass player back in his 20s, and then he kind of got off of it, but he's still, phenomenal bass player. I learned a lot from him, and he was the one that really kind of convinced me to use my fingers and not just, do the guitar player thing and move over to bass and just like stick around on it. He really encouraged me to develop a plucking style and like learn to use my hand that way. So he was really influenced by Jaco Pastorius, and like when I first moved over to bass, like I started looking like at players like that. And then, of course, I had my influences on guitar as well. And most of them, had killer bass players as well. Like I was really influenced by Jerry Cantrell of Alice in Chains, Mike Starr and Mike Inez are both killer. And, even Ben Shepherd from Soundgarden and stuff like that. There's just like little things in like all the bands that I really enjoyed, like even Incubus, their bass player who's freaking phenomenal as well. And then I found Primus as I began to play bass a little bit more. Like I knew who Primus was, and like I knew like the bigger songs and stuff. But like I really started to dive in after we played that show with them at I think it was River City Rock Fest in San Antonio. They were headlining like one of the bigger stages or something. And so I was like, oh yeah, I remember those guys. And so I started listening to all their other stuff, and I'm like, holy shit, like what have I been missing out on? And so I started like hearing stuff like that, and then just I don't know, man. Like over the years, I've grown different influences for bass, just as I keep discovering new things and old things, and becoming a bass player definitely changed my perspective. Like when I'm listening to music now, like I'm definitely like listening more to the rhythm section a lot more than the melody of the guitars or the vocals anymore. It's like I'm kind of listening to it from a just a whole other perspective. So now when I go back and listen to some of my favorite music, I'm like, oh dang, I never noticed that before. And so then I'll pick up something else from even stuff that I've been listening to the whole time that probably was an influence on me subconsciously, especially all those classic rock bands like that my dad introduced me to when I did pick up the guitar and stuff. Because when I first started playing guitar, I was a teenager that skateboarded listening to Slipknot and Sum 41 and Linkin Park and stuff like that. And my dad's like, nah, you need to learn to play this kind of stuff. And he gives me a Foreigner CD and Skinner and the Eagles. And then I had my whole, like pretty much my entire, my late teens, like I had a whole classic rock phase where like when I was playing guitar, like all my friends were trying to do all the hardcore screamo type stuff, and I was over here learning Zeppelin and Sabbath and AC/DC and stuff like that.
Did you find? Yeah, I mean all those bands. I mean, did you find yourself? Was it difficult for you to kind of, obviously playing guitar? There's similarities, but there's also a lot of differences in how you play within the band. There's a lot of differences too as well. Was that a difficult transition for you?
I don't think it was, because Nathan always complimented like my rhythm, like as far as being able to like sync up with him really well, even when I was playing guitar. In every band I formed, like before Blacktop, well, I didn't form Blacktop, I joined into it, but like in any other band I was trying to be in the past, like I was always super picky about the bass players. And like, especially in Alabama growing up, like I always had my buddy Josh Creekmore, who's a great bass player. And like I just got used to having him there and having somebody that was that good on the instruments, and like just like had that different perspective on things with the theory and the stuff like that. And I feel like you know, I really was a lot more influenced by things like that, like than I realized when I did transition over to bass. So in a way, I believe it did make it a lot easier for me to transition over, you know.
As far as the band goes, the new album, the self-titled album, Blacktop Mojo, came out in August. It is absolutely fantastic. It is a long-awaited, to the you know, from the previous album. You know, this album is a lot different in certain ways. I mean, you know, it has it has the Blacktop Mojo sound, but you guys have definitely evolved and taken a step to the next level in terms of the musicianship and the writing. Where did that come from? What you know, what transpired between the last album and this one? I mean, obviously, you know, we have all these things happening in the world, but in terms of the band internally, you know, where did you guys kind of find, you know, a different way, a different style of music?
Well, I mean, there's a cluster of factors that I think can contribute to that, which, I mean, as you know, like is with anything, but I would say, let's see, Chuck joined the band in 2018, and like pretty much the Under the Sun album cycle, like we were touring like all of 2019 and 2018, and just all that playing together and that spending time together and growing together and, you know, jamming together all the time just created a chemistry, I believe, a new kind of feel for all of us, because we all became comfortable, you know, with Chuck joining the band and me, Matt, Kiefer, and Nate. You know, we'd been playing together for a few years at that point, but then Chuck just jumped right in, and of course him being the talented, ridiculous guitar player and musician he is, just filled into his role right there. And then with this latest album, as we, like I said, we were touring together, we were writing together, we were hanging out all the time, we were just around each other, and then the pandemic happened, like right after we get off that It Won't Last tour, and like we were like, in a way, like on a Cloud 9 kind of feel, because that tour went really well, and we had just gotten like our new rig that we were riding around in, and we were all just like starting to see crowds in places that we hadn't necessarily had much love from in the past. And then all of a sudden, you know, the country shuts down, and we're just like, oh wow, okay. So we all dealt with that loss together as well, and then we all adapted and overcame together throughout 2020. And a lot of the writing this latest album, I think, happened in that time of adaptation and overcoming and sticking it together, and just like coming back out, like still surviving and still being, and actually coming out stronger in a way. And I think that's where a lot of it came from, man. I believe that what y'all are hearing is just that bond that we kind of made, and the emotions and the stirring of our souls that was going on in the middle of between Under the Sun and this album here.
Was it, you know, you talk about everything going on, and I know you guys, you know, live under the same roof, or now most of you guys do. I know, you know, some people.
Well, yeah, that's also been a change lately.
Yeah.
There's some of the guys getting married, and like we're all kind of like spreading out a little bit, you know, and that's also been like, you know, a difference in the in some things, but it's not like a bad difference. Like everybody's just growing up, man, and we're growing and expanding, and that's just how these things go.
How do you guys manage those differences? I mean, you know, you guys are such a close-knit group, you know, living under the same roof. You guys are all good friends, and there are bands out there that have a lot of different dynamics where, maybe they're not friends and maybe they're just, writing partners or they're in the same band. But you guys truly, do bleed the Blacktop Mojo. And, now when other people are moving out and kind of moving on separately, not from the band, but just personally, how does that change the dynamic? Or how do you guys manage or navigate through those changes, while making a record, while touring, and all those things that come to be, part of a band?
Well, I think because at the end of the day, we're all in this together, and we've always said from the beginning, through thick and thin, like no matter how our lives change, that we're there for each other. Like we're looking out for one another, because Blacktop Mojo is not just one person. It's a whole unit, and you become a part of that body and that unit, and the body and unit as Blacktop Mojo itself takes care of itself, as in all the pieces of it. And at the end of the day, we all come together, and we're going to live on that, bus together anyway. So it's like, we lived together off the road, like did life together on and off the road. And at the end of the day, we know we're coming together and we're going to be the same guys that we were when we got off the bus and went and did our own individual lives and stuff. But we know that we're going to all have each other's best interests at heart and each other's backs. And I think that's how, man, I think we just collectively, like, just know that we're all, in this together, and we're doing what's best for everybody,
Do you guys know when you're making an album like the one you just released, do you know, like, while you're making it, that it kicks ass?
Actually, yeah, like, there was really, with this album in particular, we all got in there, and there was just this kind of this powerful piece. I can't, like, that we just all collectively had. Like, we just went in there, and there was just this zen about it, and everything went smooth. Everybody knocked out their stuff, and we just all filled our roles, like, perfectly. Like, everybody knew what to do, and, like, we'd been, this is our fourth album, so we're pretty savvy in the studio by this point. And there was a lot of times, like, we would get finished with a track and just be like, man, that sounds so good. And just knowing that the raw tracks, like, coming in from the board and it sounds that good and you feel that good about the song, you just know it's going to be awesome when it's finished, like mixed, mastered, and all the way done. And yeah, there are definitely those moments where this is awesome. And at the end of the day, that's really what matters, because, like, if you don't like what you're doing, then what's the point in doing it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I just know, like, this album has so many layers to it, man. It's like a canvas, right? Where you paint and, you keep adding color, you keep adding shapes to it, and it comes out. And, the album is one of the best albums that's been released so far this year. And this year has had so much, it's had so much great music. Was the intent to always release this in 2021, or did it, was there, was this pushed back from 2020?
No, this was, like, we knew it was going to be released in 2021, obviously, because we came out of 2020 going into the studio in January, and we knew it was going to be, at least by fall-ish, that we knew that we would have it probably completely finished, mixed and mastered and everything. But, all the songwriting and stuff that happened in 2020, originally, the plan was to tour out and finish out the cycle for the Under the Sun record, and then go back and start writing, for the fourth always have them, which we would have been doing anyway. We're always like writing and creating and stuff. But the Static EP was kind of like something that we decided to put out there during 2020. That was kind of like, well, we might as well release this, like, because we have it, and give something for everybody to have during this time. And then to answer your question, like, it definitely wasn't a 2020 thing. Like, we pushed back into 2021. It was just something we created within 2020 and then recorded at the very beginning of this year, and kind of we're just like, all right, well, we'll put this out once it's done, kind of thing.
As far as
that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense. As far as, the tour goes, one of the things that we talked about prior to the pandemic was the state of rock and roll and its struggle to be relevant again. And with the new emerging bands that are coming out, like yourselves and other bands too, have you seen a change in the crowds? Have you seen a change in who's listening to your music in terms of, like, is it becoming more of a younger crowd? Have you noticed anything different?
Actually, absolutely, we have. Like, we've definitely noticed. Like, we've always had an appreciation from people that were around when rock and roll was like king and stuff like that, and then the younger generation tended to kind of drift more toward electronic, kind of just dance music pretty much. And now what we're starting to see is some of those kids that were into music like that, like, they're finding an appreciation for music that is just people playing it with their instrument, like with instruments, and just like a band jamming together, like individuals, like just like creating organically something like together. I definitely believe that there's been a growing interest in that since the pandemic, because there have been a lot younger people in their like 20s, 20 to 30. Like, there's been like a increase in that number of people I've seen out at shows, because it's like they haven't really seen, like, the legendary like rock bands like that we all know, like, as rock fans, like, the Zeppelins and Metallicas and stuff. When they were in the club days, they had no way of seeing that. So, like, for them to see a rock band kind of in that vein now, just up there in a small club, like, giving it all they got, it's like they've never seen that before. So now it's like, oh, what the heck is this? And then they start telling their friends about it, and it just starts, like, it's a cycle all over again, really. It's just, I think 2020 kind of, in a way, made a death and resurrection kind of thing happen, where there's a interest in live performance and live music, like, because we kind of took it for granted before that, I feel like.
Well, I've often said on this show, and my listeners will know, I've said this several times, that when you're a young kid and you've got to go through the pandemic and you're not allowed to go to school and you're sitting at home doing the same thing every day, a lot of angst comes out of that. And
absolutely, through
angst, rock and roll always thrives. And I think, some of these, some of these kids who may have gone in listening to pop music or, electronic music, like you mentioned, after a while, when you're doing the same thing every day because you can't go out, you're limited to what you can do, you're a young kid, you're going to look for something else to capture your interest. You can only play the same video game, enough times. You can only hear the same song enough times before you say, what's this rock music? What's this all about?
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of discovery in that. And I think because
Absolutely.
there's a lot of that anger and that. I mean, rock and roll has always thrived on the "fuck you" and the anger and the
Right.
angst. And it has, and I think there's no bigger way than being 15, 16 years old, sitting in front of a computer
Having
screen,
that energy.
Yeah, needing to change, needing something, and I think that's why you're seeing all these bands starting to finally, get listened by young people, or have young people finally listen to them. Whether it's you guys or whether it's whomever. I mean, I know prior to the pandemic there was a handful of new bands like Greta Van Fleet or the Struts or some other bands that were that made some inroads with young people, but now I think you're seeing a whole bunch of new bands really benefit from young kids finding themselves throughout that pandemic.
100%. And also, like just the discovery of something different than what they had been listening to the previous couple of years. It's probably like a polar opposite shift in a way.
Yeah, and then of course, when a young kid goes sees a rock show, right? Like I'm taking my 16-year-old son to see you guys tomorrow night. He's been at a lot of different concerts.
Hell yeah. That's awesome, man.
But when you see a rock band and you're a young kid, that's the coolest shit ever,
Absolutely. Like, dude, that's the thing. Like, I tell people I had this AC/DC phase when I was 16, but I'm not kidding, man. Like, the first time I heard that, I don't forget it. Like, I don't forget that feeling. You know what I mean? This is so freaking, so awesome. Like, what is this? Kind of thing. And I remember several, like, moments like that when I was discovering, like you said, like, just discovering rock and roll music and discovering, like, bands that just kicked ass live and, like, almost were, like, even more an explosion of energy live than they even could, like, produce on a record back then, and then going and, like when I was a teenager, YouTube and stuff was there. So it's like, and what was being put on YouTube was stuff like all those old live footage and live videos from stuff that like MTV put out, and like you couldn't like just watch on TV. Like, so it's like when you wanted to go watch like one of these bands you're discovering play live, you just look it up on YouTube in class when you were bored. And that's how, like, dude, I remember watching Pearl Jam 92, that Pink Pop concert, and that freaking, like, that was another, like, significant change in my life, I feel like, dude, because I was like, oh my God, like, just the passion, the energy, the freaking rawness and realness of it all. Just, it moves you, man. And I think it really, like, shifts your person in a way.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, there's still nothing like it. I mean, I'm in my mid 40s, and when I go to a show, I still get that charge. I just saw Rival Sons last week, in Chicago.
Oh man.
And this third time I've seen him, and it's just the crowd was insane. The music,
yeah.
I mean, it was awesome, and it's like I still get that charge. And for a young kid, when they see a band come out, and it's like it's electrifying, man. It really it touches your soul. I mean, there's nothing, there's no going back. There's no going back once
there isn't. Once you hit the lightning rod of rock and roll, man, it's like, well, you're thunderstruck, bro.
Yeah, and I think when you see all these new bands like yourselves, and the album backs it up, right? I mean, we can talk all till we're blue in the face about bringing back rock and roll. When you release an album like you guys did, it's tremendous, in that, because I often believe that whatever's good will be found. And I steal that quote because I interviewed Blake Allard from Joyous Wolf, and he said that in the interview. He's like, I don't try to think about the relevancy of rock and roll. If we keep playing good music, people will find us. And I truly believe that eventually that'll happen.
That's true.
Yeah,
most definitely. And that's something, honestly, like, we can attest to, because, dude, like, people are still, like, finding us on YouTube through videos we put out 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Like they're still discovering. Like that's the beauty of the age that we do live in, is that that's a lot more accessible to everybody. Like it's not just what's being pumped through the mainstream or by just word of mouth anymore. It's like word of mouth has become a lot larger because of social media and because of things like YouTube and stuff. People are constantly able to find something that may have been there for a few years, but to them it's a brand new thing.
I believe that. I think sometimes we get too caught up in trying to make rock and roll mainstream again, when in reality,
or a flash in the pan.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, but in reality, it's never really been mainstream, right? I mean, it's never. I mean, the Beatles were mainstream, but that was decades ago. But rock and roll is so much cooler when it's not mainstream, when it is,
right,
the underground thing, or the that kids are listening to, or when they're afraid if their parents hear the music coming from the bedroom. That's when it's cool. When it's mainstream, it's too shiny. It's too polished.
Can be, yeah, for sure.
What's next for you guys? You guys are doing this tour, and what's coming up in 2022?
Well, we definitely have some things for y'all to be looking out for. Well, that I know that we're going to be doing kind of in December. With some people, I don't think I can talk about some of it, but I know we're doing Shiprock. That's one of the next big things. That's going to be February 2022. And then after that, we're going to be going out on another run for the spring, but I can't announce that yet either.
All right.
So, but y'all definitely know about it, because we're gonna blast it out there and you'll see it.
Is it you guys with some like opening, or is it going to be like this tour is?
Okay, so we've had a few like 2-week runs as a main support, but most of our tours have been like headlining tours, like even going back to 2017, man. Like I remember, even though like we were headlining our own tour, it was like there'd sometimes be 5 people in these small little places we were playing at, and we've just been doing that over the years, like, and kept growing like that in a way, like grinding, as you would say. And because of how people discover you nowadays through the internet, that's grown naturally on its own as we grew as a band. Like the Mojo Nation kind of grew with us. And main point is that we're going to be main support for a band that's been very successful, and we're actually pretty cool with, and them and their crew. And it's going to be good. And we're going to be going all over the place, man. We're going to hit the West Coast, going to hit some Canada, going to hit some Midwest and some Southeast and Northeast and all that stuff with those guys. So
you guys are invading the globe.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we'll get across the pond at some point, man. Like we get messages and comments all the time from the UK and Ireland and Germany and like all kinds of places in Europe.
Yeah, I mean Europe and the UK, the rock scene is doing very well, in terms of
100%, man. It's a different appreciation over there, man.
It really is.
For it.
Totally is.
I look forward to checking it out.
Well, Catt, man, it's been a blast. I do appreciate you doing this, man. I look forward to the show tomorrow.
Hell yeah, man. Looking forward to seeing y'all, meeting your son, and rocking out with you guys, dude. It's been good talking to you.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Thank you very much for doing it. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you, Jay. I appreciate you, brother.
All right, everybody, that's Catt from Blacktop Mojo. Check out their tour dates on all social media platforms. I'm Jay Scott. This is The Hook Rocks. Take care of yourself. We'll chat soon. Thanks.
300 Favorite Albums with James Campion.
I don't think there's an album I know better front to back. I learned how to play guitar to a lot of these songs.
If I could pick one record to hand someone and say, this is what it feels like to be a woman, it would be this record.
You know, the engineer that was recording the album for us was a novice engineer. He was really the janitor.
The first half of these sessions for the album were totally improvisatory in the sense that they went into the studio and just dealt with whatever happened.
There was space that was left for these listeners to kind of discover it for themselves. That they would say, yeah, my parents listened to it, but I had to build my own relationship to it.
Happiness, good living, peace, love, rock and roll. I just feel like this album is such a wonderful translation of that concept.
People understood they were in a world historical moment, and it felt like it was going to last forever. In fact, the infinite spaces that they explored in The Giant Now is part of what made that explosion so huge.